Welcome to Fast and Hard with your host, Coach Matt Tyner and Will Pritchard.
Welcome to our show, ladies and gentlemen. This is Matt Tyner. I'm the head baseball coach at Towson University, and sitting in with me is Will Pritchard, our producer and co-host for every show moving forward. Welcome, Will.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Caught him off guard, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the way this show's going to go. I might catch him off guard, I may catch a guest off guard, and I'll do my best to never catch myself off guard. But realize we're not professionals, and we're not trying to be professionals. So you got to just hang in there with us a little bit and give us a chance to grow on you, because that's what we're going to do. This semester, I'm going to be giving you an update regarding our baseball team, what we've done in the past, and what the future looks like, so that you get an idea of where this baseball team has come from and where I think it may go. Of course, I'm going to report to you the good, the bad, and the ugly, so you're going to get an opportunity to kind of get a feel for what these guys are about and what we're doing and accomplishing on and off the field. So that sounds like a lot of fun to me. How about you, Will?
I like that idea. I really like it.
Cool. Secondly, we've had an opportunity to meet with and talk to a personal friend of mine, a professional business associate of mine, one Mr. Michael Melnik, the creator of the Energized approach. And his message is unbelievable. And I think you guys are going to find this very, very beneficial. You know, it's interesting to me that he says things like energy. It's all around us and it influences in everything that we do. And what I want you to think about is how we've all experienced the impact of energy when it's low. In fact, it might be players that are dragging their feet, conversations that are negative, an environment that feels like the life has been sucked out of it. There's no doubt that this low energy has a cost. It gets expressed as games that should have been won, practices that are frustrating and ineffective, and the relationships that are strained. On the other hand, we've all experienced the impact of this energy when it's high. Our players that have a bounce in their step, a level of camaraderie that feels like you are all part of a family, an environment that is pumped up. No doubt that this is the situation it's all about. Brings all the benefits. It's games that are won by the strength of will. And I don't mean Will Pritchard. I'm talking about the will to win. And it makes practices that are fun and engaging, and the relationships that are developed are strong. In other words, you jump in a foxhole with that guy, or you take a bullet for that guy. And that's what you're going to learn if you have an opportunity to listen to us the rest of this semester and get an idea and a good grip on what the Energized approach is. I use it here. You guys don't know that I'm using it on you or with you, but I am. And I think it would be great if you get an opportunity to hear it from the creator, the one and only Michael Melnik, and he'll speak to us each week as we dissect the Energized approach. Then little by little, we'll get into some alumni. I'll handpick 10, 15 of them that I want to call and talk to and get to know them a little bit better. It's always interesting, I think, from the perspective of talking with alumni. You know, I'm going to ask everybody, is there anything that you would do differently? How about you, Will? You're what, 18, 20 years old? 20 years old. Is there anything you do differently in your life up to this point?
Well, probably would have saved some more money up before coming to college, but other than that, no, not really.
He's a young man. Think about it. 20 years down the road, when I interview him, because this podcast is still going on and I haven't croaked the bucket yet, I'd ask him that same question. He might have a different answer now. So get ready as I ask every alumni, what would you say to your 21-year-old self? And that question, I have heard some wild answers, and looking forward to hearing from everybody. And it's going to be fun. There'll also be an opportunity to talk to some special guests from all walks of life. I'll take some suggestions from the audience. If you want to email me, you certainly can do that. email me at mtyner@towson.edu. And I'm certainly accessible by phone, 804-247-2217. One thing you got to know, I practice every day as well as work every day. And if I don't have your number saved, I'm sending you the voicemail because I can't be distracted. I've got a one-track mind and it's baseball right now. So sit back, relax, enjoy. We're going to find out a little bit more about my co-host right now, Will Pritchard, as I ask him where he's from and things like that, just some general issue questions. And then I'll give him a chance to do the same with me. And then we'll dive into the 2022 Tigers. Just keep this in mind. Chinese New Year and all the propaganda that goes with that says that this is the year of the Tiger. And right now, I got to believe they know what they're talking about. So, Will, help us out a little bit. Tell us where you're from.
From here in Baltimore, just down the road from campus, about 20 minutes away. Lived there all my life, between Rosedale, Essex, and Dundalk, and graduated high school from Patapsco High School and Center for the Arts. I was a part of their instrumental music program, started here at Towson as a freshman in the fall of 2019 as a music education major. After one semester, I did change my major to electronic media and film, where I started focusing on specifically audio and radio. One semester after that, in the spring of 2020, just before everything shut down with COVID, I had added a mass communications minor where I primarily focus on journalism courses.
Wow, man, that's a heck of a background. Folks, I got to tell you, I've been trying to find somebody like this for 4 years. And thanks to the efforts of my assistant coach, Paul Benoit Diaz, he was able to find him in less than 2 months. So I guess I wasn't looking in the right places, but we're excited. He and I both have come together, and we think we're going to be able to put a pretty good show together for you so that you might like what you hear. Well, I got a couple questions for you here, and this one really kind of speaks to why are you doing this?
Well, I'm doing this because I really want to end up going into sportscasting. That is my eventual goal. I would love to work for, any of the great MLB teams out there, even if it's, at one of their minor league facilities doing play-by-play, working maybe, Fox Sports, ESPNs, anything of that nature. I would just love to be around the game, and doing broadcasting is something that I've recently started, but I really do enjoy it. I want to try and continue this as long as I can. I've been writing for broadcast for a little while throughout my courses. Haven't done much writing for print in the past year or so, but I'm diving back into that a little more this semester as well. And those stories, sometimes we may be mentioning them here, but they will all be posted as well for people to view.
Fantastic. As I shared with Will earlier, I said, it's funny. This, for the first time in my life, I may be asking the questions instead of getting them asked to me. And I can tell you up front, ladies and gentlemen, that this asking the question bit, it's harder than answering. You actually got to use your brain and come up with some interesting things to ask. You know what I'm saying? So really welcome Will to the platform. We're going to have a good time. He's going to jump in whenever he feels the need to, and we'll go from there. A little bit about myself, as I shared with him. I'm not going to bore you with my background. It's all available on site. You can jump on the Towson University Baseball and read my bio if you want to. I did freak him out, though, earlier, and I told him the way I picked my college choice was myself and my best friend at the time, who you'll meet with the Energized approach. The gentleman's name is Michael Melnik. We might have had a beer or two at that party that we were at. And I said, man, we're flipping a coin. He said, what for? And I said, if it's heads, we're going to the University of Miami. And if it's tails, we're going to Arizona State. And Will said, that's not how you picked your college. And I said, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I said, so that's how I ended up at the University of Miami. And the rest is history. And if you want to check out the history, it's all in the bio. So I'm not going to take up any more of that time because you guys want to hear about our team this year. So Will, fire away, partner.
All right. So, what does your schedule look like this season compared to the previous seasons?
Well, pretty good question. And I think this is the most action packed, toughest schedule that we could have ever put on paper. And we schedule about 2 to 3 years in advance. So we actually hoped that we would be where we are right now, talent wise and team wise. And it looks like this is going to be a good match, a great test for us. You know, when I took the position back in 2017, the associate head coach and pitching coach was Miles Miller, and I told him to schedule anybody and everybody because we wanted to recruit to that and we wanted to find out where we really were. In the non-conference portion of your schedule, you can take a litmus test, if you would, by how you're playing. It kind of exposes where you might be short, and it also exposes where you might be good at, right? So we took it as a challenge. We have played teams like New Mexico State, Richmond, Davidson, Kennesaw State, West Virginia, Sac State, ODU, High Point. We played Miami a couple years ago in the COVID shortened season. Almost beat them on a Friday night. We've played Western Carolina, Winthrop, Georgia Southern, VCU. We always play Virginia. This year we've, added Maryland. This year's schedule, as I mentioned before, is just going to be just a juggernaut. There are two teams in the top 25 right now. We open at the University of Miami. We play 4 games down there, and we're set. I think we're looking pretty good. We finally got some arms that I feel comfortable with. We'll go probably 5, 6, 7 deep from the starting side and probably 7 deep from the relieving side. So that gives us a nice blend of each to go into a 4-game set across the weekend. That following week, we'll jump out and we'll play LSU and Southern. One of the reasons I wanted to get LSU on the schedule was one, Paul Maneri and I are personal friends. We competed against each other when he was at Dade North and I was at the University of Miami. And I've watched his meteoric rise in career. And unfortunately, due to some physical ailments, he retired. So they got a brand new coach in there at LSU. But more so than that, my mentor, Skip Burtman, is he lives in Baton Rouge. He was the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame college coach that went to LSU and in 10 years went to 9 College World Series and won the championship 5 times, and then turned his baseball keys in and became a very successful athletic director for LSU. I believe he holds a record that was 24 sports offered and 23 of them made the NCAA tournaments. So it'd be great to see him. He turned 80 years old. I really want to go see him. And then, of course, we come back and then we flip it around and we'll jump on a bus and run down and play UNCG this year. So our non-conference opponents always are tough, and it just gauges our talent level and where we're at, what we need to work on to prepare us for that conference schedule that we've got. So I hope that answered your question good.
Yeah, and so you were talking about strong arms this season. How is your pitching doing compared to previous seasons?
Well, this is the most talented roster that we've ever put together, and it's a combined effort. Coach Miller left us to go to High Point. We wish him nothing but success, and certainly he played a great role in putting this staff together. Blake Nation is our new pitching coach. He has brought a couple people with him. Our new associate head coach, Tanner Biagini, who has been with us since the beginning, was elevated to the recruiting coordinator's position and has done extremely well in filling his responsibilities. But we've got those 7 strong. I mean, a guy like Nick Janowitz has really come full circle. He came to us from Southern Cal Junior College. First pitch he threw in an inter-squad game, he felt something pop in his elbow, and I think it was really just the culmination of wear and tear on it. He had really not thrown over the summer, so he came in and it popped. So he didn't get to pitch his first year here. Last year he got his feet wet and did extremely well as our Saturday guy. He'll probably move to the Friday night role, and we're hoping for big things out of him. we picked up a transfer by the name of Nate Nabholz. His uncle was a major leaguer back in the 80s and 90s. He pitched here at Towson, so I'm sure we're making that family happy. And of course, Nate is doing a phenomenal job of making us happy. Teddy Blumenauer's really kind of stepped up and really starting to mature both on and off the field, and I think that's playing well in regard to his development. We're going to flip him the ball, and his roommate, Nick Ramanjulu, will also get a shot. And then there's guys like Angelo Santangelo, Justin Reebok, Brett Siles, Doug Morose, 2 freshmen and 2 upperclassmen that we like a lot from the starters position. Then you take a look at the back end. We've got some proven guys. Our closer, Jake Pekalunas and Cam Clark, who I believe came close to setting the appearance record last year. They're back. We've added Luis Rivera. Probably has the best breaking ball, one of the best breaking balls I've ever seen, the hardest for sure. And he's going to run up there 90 miles an hour. So that's going to help our back end. Nolan Bolt's looking good. We've got some young freshmen that are adding to this mix. And we've got a couple guys that are on either what we would call injured reserve that have transferred in and going through their rehab programs. Guys like Ethan Pecco that really he's going to be a force in the future. And we picked up a grad student from New York University whose program was canceled. So he hasn't really faced a hitter for 2 years, but he's 6'5", and we've had him on a gun as high as 90. So we'll see what happens with Oakley Albinson. It's been a good year for pitching, to say the least.
Just that, we're just getting back to school this semester. The winter training happened this previous week when the players got back to campus. How do you feel like the winter training session those went?
Those are always, it's a toughie, Will, and it is really interesting to gauge where you're at. The NCAA sets a limit of 8 hours per week that we can work with our team either in their skill or strength and conditioning. So that means we get 4 hours of strength and conditioning and 4 hours of baseball. Well, if you try to take 4 hours and blend it into 5 days, that means you're getting about 40 minutes a day. So to get them rolling, we get to spend 40 minutes a day with them, and then they got to do a lot of stuff on their own, where the coaches remove themselves and they get to, be baseball players on their own, led by a captain, led by themselves. So you get a chance to see what kind of makeup your team is made of when they're doing things on their own, So I like what I see. I really do. This fall was the most enjoyable fall that I've been a part of since I was here. And I'm sure that having 2 new coaches helped breathe some life into the program. But more so than that, it would seem to be the combination of new kids, i.e. freshmen, transfers that were hoping they found a good long home or a good home, and then the returning guys that felt like, we had a little bit of success. We were able to turn the gas on the second half of the season, and we made the conference tournament for the first time in 8 years, and we won more games than we had in 20 years. And trust me, that's a low bar that we really want to try and, exceed considerably this year. But there was a little bit of momentum. So I think the guys have gone home and done a pretty good job. Everybody looks the part. They look like they're in good shape. And we started our team workouts on Friday, and reasonably impressed with our pitchers where they're at, reasonably impressed with our hitters where they're at. Of course, we have to do that work inside. We don't have the ability to jump out on a turf field under the lights in 70-degree weather and play. So, we take what we've got and do the best we can with that.
So another thing with your winter training, this year you added a speaker series to your winter training. I was fortunate enough to sit in for 2 of those days where either yourself or someone else was speaking to the team. Can you tell us a little bit about the speakers you had come in? what prompted you to do something like this is most schools don't typically have anything like this. They tend to just, focus primarily on the athletic side of things, whereas you're taking a bit of a different approach this season.
And I thank you very much for bringing that up. I didn't know if we would have an opportunity to discuss that or not, but you're right. I think it was a little brainchild of mine before we left. I just asked him, I said, do you think it would be beneficial if I subjected you guys to some life skills? And that's what we called it. And, I'm not so sure how in tune it was with life skills, but what we did was we brought some subject content to the forefront that maybe we don't ever take the time to discuss, like budgeting. And then, do you need to be fearful about life insurance or health insurance or disability insurance or, some of these things that I know everybody gets a phenomenal education here at Towson University, but I'm not so sure if anybody's ever sat down and talked to any of our kids about budgeting. Even as a parent, I don't think I covered budgeting with my kids until they were out of college and they were actually making some money. Maybe I was doing the parents a favor right now, trying to get my kids to realize that money don't grow on trees. So that's why we led off with that. Neil Young did a phenomenal job of talking to our guys that day about that. Then we had a couple of speakers. We had Chris Russ, a former alumni and a sponsor of our program. Thanks, Chris. He came in and talked about real estate as a career, real estate as a purchase and what it takes to do so, and things of that nature. We had Brian Kowitz come in. Brian owns his own company. He's in property and casualty. So there's more to insurance than just, life. There's car and real estate and commercial. And he talked about his profession and how to get into it and how they don't, what they do and how they're successful. And he also shared with us a little bit about his career, because he is a Baltimore-bred young gentleman that went to Clemson, Hall of Famer down there, played for the Braves, played for John Schuerholz, the gentleman who our park is named after. And, I think my guys connected with him incredibly, right? I mean, he also talked about mortgages because he had run a mortgage company for 10 years early in the 2000s before he sold it. And that was meat and potatoes to our guys, because now they know what it takes to buy a piece of property if they want to, or a townhome or a condo or all those types of things. And my guys are going to be prepared when they leave here. And I've told them before, it's not always about baseball, and it's because so many of us don't get an opportunity to play professionally. What can I do to help them grow and be prepared outside or beyond the game? And that's why we kicked off this year's series, and we'll add to it next year. Maybe we'll shorten the speeches and double the number of speakers that we get, because believe it or not, word has traveled and people have reached out to me and said, hey, I'd like to be a part of that next year. And I'm like, you're in, let's do it. So thanks for asking that one too. That's a good one. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, this is non-rehearsed. As we said before, we're not professionals. So we wouldn't try this at home.
Yeah, I know from talking to some of the guys when I've been in the dugout as they're, lacing up everything and grabbing their bats, everything. They like these speakers coming in. They do. They really do. And they talk about the things that they've learned. I believe it was one of the other days I was there. It's three players. I have my back turned as I'm, sitting there typing out one of these stories that she'll be published in the coming weeks. But I just can hear behind me all of a sudden talk about investing, and everyone's like, okay, so you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just typing and smiling, and they don't know I'm listening to this, but I'm like, they know what they're doing. They're listening. They're really taking away the point of these. So I know they do hope that this continues, and who knows, maybe some other colleges and universities out there will take this model and apply it to their own schools as well.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And, as we get deeper into the Energized approach with Michael Melnik, you're going to hear one particular energy source. It's called inclusion. And to me, the more I can include them in things that I do, the better off we're going to be from a relationship perspective. And at some point in time, my guys have to feel the same way about them that I feel about me as I do about them. In other words, there's not a guy on our team that I wouldn't take a bullet for, or jump in a foxhole with. And I hope they have that same type of want and will for me, because if they do, then that means we're going to be inseparable on the field. In times of trouble, we're going to be able to lean on each other. And then times of success, we're going to be able to party with one another and understand that we're in this together. So I think as long as they understand that it's not punitive, I'm trying to just subject them to some real life skill set education, it will go a long way. And that was my hope and my goal.
So we've talked about pitching. How are your hitters doing this season so far?
It's funny. You come back and you wish that you'd never left. Hitting is a game of repetition, right? And whenever you take a break, there is a little bit that's going to get lost. And unfortunately for us, this was it seemed like the longest break. We purposely did not start our fall team practice until October 1st. And that ran us through the first week of November. But then after that, we really didn't face any live pitching from the 1st of November until Friday, January 28th. So if you think about that, that is almost 60 days where we have not had, or over 60 days where we have not had live pitching. I don't care who you are. If you're a professional at the major league level, if you don't see live pitching for 60 days or more, you're going to be behind a little bit. So I fully anticipated us missing a step. Pleasantly surprised with some people, but we're not there yet. We got some ways to go. And if we can get close to where we were when we left camp in November, that'll be fine. That will, because as we continue to see live pitching and get an opportunity to face our arms and opponents' arms, that will ramp us back up, and it's kind of trial by fire. I was never a fast starter. It took me a while to get going again, and I feel for our hitters because of that. I never experienced success out of the chute. I always had to take my lumps, and then I knew once it started for me, then it was okay, and I was going to be fine. So hopefully our guys will be the same way. But I was reasonably surprised with some of our efforts so far this weekend. Guys like Bryce Frederick look pretty good. Right now, good solid contact would be what we're looking for and what we're hoping for, and that's was present. There were some loud outs this weekend. So far so good. And obviously as we continue down the path of preparation for that Miami series, I'll be more than happy to share with everybody what our lineup looks like and who I think is hot. And I'll give you my pick to click, both on the offensive side, the defensive side, and the pitching side. And we'll have a little bit of fun with it. But so far, so good. So that'll be about it for the baseball side of it tonight. We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. This segment's brought to you by Towson alum Chris Russ, your real estate specialist. You can find Chris at chrisruss.com or call him at 410-908-7723. Chris specializes and takes great pride in helping others relocate to new towns, as he once did over a dozen times while pursuing his dream to play Major League Baseball with the Texas Rangers. With many buyers flooding the area due to the great schools, strong job economy, and a robust defense industry, Chris has teamed up with lenders that specialize in VA loans and a home inspector that served our military proudly. Whether you are looking to commute to Howard County, Fort Meade, Baltimore, Bethesda, or Washington, D.C., Chris is familiar with the communities and the commuter locations that will serve you best. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, 410-908-7723. Another proud TU alum. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, your real estate specialist. Will, as I mentioned to you earlier at the very beginning of the show, I thought it was just going to be a great opportunity to introduce to everyone the creator of the Energized approach, which happens to be a personal friend of mine. Michael and I go all the way back to our high school years in our hometown of Decatur, Illinois. And quick story, Mike was always a great athlete and decided that he would accompany me to the University of Miami for moral support. And that really solidified a friendship that has lasted from 1972 to present. And I couldn't be more proud of him and his successes with the Energized approach and the impact that it has had on my life. Having him share the mic with us for the first show is fantastic. An opportunity that people won't want to miss, because we're gonna dive deep into this. We're going to take a bird's eye view of the Energized approach from Michael's perspective and mine, and cover it throughout the course of the first 10 to 12 shows that you and I produce. So without further ado, let me introduce the creator to the audience of the Energized approach, Mr. Michael Melnik. Good afternoon, Mike.
Hello, Matthew.
How are things going for you up in snowy Minnesota?
Well, I think you just described it. So, yeah, we're actually having a heat wave at about 32 degrees, but we're going to drop down again in the next couple of days. So we're used to it.
I hear you. As I mentioned to the audience earlier, Mike, we go way back. And I guess I would ask you up front, what would be one of the fondest memories that you have of my relationship with you?
Well, I feel like I'm a little bit on the spot here. To do that. Well, I mean, certainly it's the longevity. I mean, there's lots of highlights, and maybe that's the point, is that there are very few periods of time in my life where you, Matthew, do not pop into the story at some level. And that's all the way back from when I was, 1972. So if I went each year, it's probably like, yeah, and I did this. Oh, yeah, Matt was there. And then in 1983, I did this, and Matt was there. So the fact that I think that we keep, dropping into each other's lives for this long and at the same level, where I'm sure the audience has experienced this, where it doesn't matter even how long it's been before you talk to somebody, you reconnect, and all of a sudden it's like, did we talk yesterday? Because it just feels like we're taking up where we left off. So too many stories, obviously, to mention, but all good ones.
Hey, we'll save that for the book, okay?
There you go.
Hey, I do have a couple questions about your life, and I think the audience would appreciate it. Tell me a little bit. We went to school together at the University of Miami our freshman year, and then where did your path take you after that?
Well, being that Miami was a private school and I hadn't saved money for college, I needed to go back in state to Illinois after my first year at Miami. So I went to Carbondale, Illinois, Southern Illinois University. Did not have the greatest experience there. So I actually took a little over a year off and went traveling to Israel. Lived in Israel for a year. That is where I discovered my next passion in my career choice, which was going to be occupational therapy. Found out about it while I was there, came home, went back to school, got my OT degree, began practicing as an occupational therapist, went on to get my master's in exercise physiology in Champaign, Illinois, and then worked there for a few years before I then moved to Minnesota.
What actually took you to Minnesota, Mike, as we crossed the path from personal into professional?
What actually took me there was I already had a sister and brother-in-law and some nieces and nephews that lived up here. but also one of the leaders in the field that I was interested in, which was injury prevention with business and industry. One of the leaders of the field was actually up here as well. So I was fortunate enough, so I wanted to come up here and spend time with my sister and brother-in-law, nieces and nephews. But I wrote a letter to the individual that was one of the leaders in the field, and it turns out that he received my letter at the same time that he was complaining to his staff that he needed help. So the stars were aligned very well in that situation, and came up here and worked for him for a few years before I started my own business.
Okay. And once that business was started, what path did you take it down?
Just very, very quick summary was initially I was the guy that would go into companies and talk about sitting and standing and lifting and ergonomics and stretching and how to prevent injuries, and really thoroughly enjoyed that. The problem is that I would get calls from companies saying, well, Michael, you came in and showed our people how to do all this stuff, but they're not doing it. We need you to come back again. And I kind of was perplexed, and I said, well, if I come back, what do you want me to do? You want me to do it louder this time or in a different language? I said, I'm not a magician. Nobody's going to change their behavior just because I talk to them. I said, the missing ingredient is that needs to be supported and led and reinforced by your management team. And they said, well, then come in here and talk to them. So that really is what evolved my career from doing, the 1 hour lunch and learn for employees and stuff to actually doing leadership coaching and leadership training for organizations on really how to effectively implement change in their organization.
And that is a beautiful segue into the Energized approach. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to kind of perk up your ears, if you would, for me, because this is an interesting approach and one that I got an opportunity to listen to up close and personally. In 2006, while I was not coaching, I was looking for opportunities, and Michael and I got together, and I got the chance to spend a little bit of time with him as a business development manager for him, and I really started to gain an unbelievable appreciation for this approach that Michael shared with, captains of industry. And as I continued to listen to it, and the more I digested the approach, I just felt as if it had an opportunity to be spread amongst more than just, injury prevention. In fact, I think it could very well easily become a way of life. Mike, give us a kind of your take on how and where the Energized approach came from, what it's morphed into now, and let's take a little deep dive into it, just a general approach to the Energized approach, all right?
Absolutely. So the first thing that really the listeners need to know about me is that I'm a fairly selfish consultant and speaker. And what that means is that I really want to enjoy my work. And if I'm going to go in and help an organization reduce injuries and keep people safe, my expectation is that everybody would be really happy that I'm going to be there. What I wasn't prepared for when I went into some companies that would bring me in is there questions, well, how much is this going to cost, and how much time is this going to take, and what new behaviors do we have to do? And what I was realizing, although I didn't label it as such, is that the energy that was surrounding change and implementing new things was being resisted. And as a selfish consultant and speaker, I don't like resistance. I want to come into an environment where people are on board and people are like glad I'm there. And so I began this quest of going, well, wait a second here. I'm coming in, I'm going to do these presentations. They're going to be a lot of fun. You're going to have new tools. You're going to have, new ways of addressing injuries and costs in your company. Where's this resistance coming from? And that was really what began the quest of the Energized approach, because what I realized was it didn't have anything to do with really how much it cost. It didn't really have much to do with what I would have pinned on. But the problem was people were resisting change. People were resisting having to change direction. And so what I did was I began working with organizations and saying, well, do me a favor here. You're bringing me in to implement new things. Have you ever done this before? And they go, oh, yeah, we've brought people in over and over the years. And I said, well, what happened? And they said, well, it didn't work. It failed. It bottomed out. The program is in the program graveyard. And I said, well, do you want me to come in and have it not work again? Is that okay with you? Because it sounds like I'm the next person in line to participate in a kind of doomed program. And they said, no, we'd really like this one to work. And I said, well, I think the only way it's going to work is if we change the approach. And even at that point, I didn't know what that meant. But I was like, why would I do it the same way they've been doing it and have it not work for you? Let's mix this up again or a little bit. And so what we began doing was this quest of looking at, okay, well, how have you been implementing change in the past? And they began walking me through this methodology that I was like, well, no wonder it didn't work. I said, I didn't even have to participate in it. You're only telling me about it, and you're sucking the energy out of me. I said, so, and this was really the magic moment for the Energized approach. I said, let's not talk about what it is that you're bringing me in to do. Tell me about the programs that you have implemented in your organization that have absolutely been phenomenal. So I've worked with large soda distributors. I've worked with airlines. So one of the airlines, let's say, they said our best program is our on-time performance. I said, okay, so let's not think about safety. Let's not think about what you want me to do. But I want you to share with me what has made you so good at on-time performance. And they started going through this very specific list of saying things like, well, we are committed to it. And because we're committed to it, we do this, 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 and this. We have communication that is built around our success. So we're communicating to these people and these people and these people. Everybody in the organization knows who's accountable for what, so that we can easily find out when it's going well and when it's not. We include all of our customers, and so they started going through this list, and I was writing these things down, and I'm going, oh my gosh, all of these things are the energy sources that are allowing you to be successful. And if we look at the way you've done injury prevention in the past, guess what? You haven't included any of these energy sources. So the Energized approach grew out of me being able to go into some very successful organizations, finding out what they were really doing well, finding out that they were not doing those same things in some of their other programs, and that's where the holes were and why it wasn't working. So over a period of about 20 years, I've continuously been fine-tuning that process by going in and doing it with more and more companies. But to your point, Matthew, and then I'll take a breather here, is that I was doing this for a large home supply company on a national level. And I was doing a presentation at one of their national events. And when I was done, this line of people came to me, and the first person said, I run the human relations department here at our company. Would you come do the Energized approach for us? And then another person came up and said, I run the accounting department here. Would you come do it for us? And what became abundantly clear, that not liking resistance is the human condition. None of us want to face that. And all of us want to energize the people around us to have them participate with us in whatever we're trying to achieve. And that's really what the Energized approach is about.
Well, and I'm glad you've taken us down a number of rabbit holes, and I'll circle back to those in just a second. But I can vividly remember back in 2012 as the head coach at Bellarmine University, after my first year and only having been removed from working together with you for about 3 years, I decided to implement what I could remember from the Energized approach. And although, in coaching, people are going to look at you with wins and losses, and that's how they're going to grade your success, right? Where the coach probably has a different perspective or a different point of view, at least from success, is, have I changed the culture? Have I put the program on the right path? And the key components that make up the Energized approach, whether it be for industry, for personal use, or for athletics, it is such a great common thread and a common denominator there when you're talking about all of the energy sources that need to be what word am I looking for here? Well, come on, need to be present to have that kind of success because of what you mentioned before, resistance to change. And when you bring new ideas in, whether you're 1 year or 2 years, there's always change until you feel like you've got it headed in the right direction. And then, I became an assistant coach, so I had to really follow in somebody else's footprint. But I did have an opportunity to show and tell the Energized approach with the University of Richmond and during a coaching retreat, and everybody liked it. But I saw what was present in that coaching staff with a number of the professional businesses that we, basically provided the Energized approach to, and it died. You just couldn't keep it going. And I just felt like, gosh, when the time is right, I'm going to go back to it at Towson University, now that this was my own program. And to be quite honest with you, the first 2 years were a struggle. It was a challenge. I mean, I was a completely different coach than the coach that they had before, and I understood that. There was great kids. I mean, I've always had the benefit of working with great kids, just like you've always had the benefit of working with great companies. The same thing applies with me. So when I had the opportunity to kind of move into the Energized approach was when I started to get more and more of the people that I had recruited or my staff had recruited, which kind of ate, drank, and slept the same way we did, if you know what I mean. So as we started to grow, boom, COVID hits. So then last year, I took a long leave of absence. And when I came back, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. They'd had a great run. They were 7-8, yada, 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 all the above. It was March 10th, Mike, March 10th, 2021, when Coach Miller and I had a conversation, and it was like, hey, dude, you really need to take back over, and you need to, what do you say? And I said, you know what? I agree. I think you're right. I think it's time for me to come back. Well, instead of coming out with guns blazing, I went back, I pulled out the Energized approach, and I looked at all the energy sources that I felt needed to be present for us to be successful. I talked about with myself, I'm talking about communication. What type of communication did I need to have with my players? The next day, I introduced them to, hey, this is Coach Tyner. This is what I'm about. This is what you're about. How do you want me to communicate with you? And we talked about the level of commitment, moving forward, guys. We all got to get on the same plane. The plane's built. Let's all go fill the seats, right? So we talked about that. I felt like I was including them, and they felt like they were being included in everything. And my goodness, man, we turned that season around. We went 20-21, and I know I don't want to go back to strict wins and losses, but had I not jumped back into the Energized approach, I'm not so sure I would have had the groundwork, or I don't think I would have had the
foundation.
The foundation, yeah, to actually have something to give back to my staff. I would have just, floundered somewhat, and we probably would have floundered also. So take that momentum, move forward, and I've always said I'm going to introduce this program when the timing's right, and I feel like the timing is right now. It just, we're moving in the right direction. I've got a great relationship with these kids. I think these kids have a great relationship with me. And inherently, they don't know it's the Energized approach. I'm the only guy that knows it's the Energized approach, and that's fine. But man, what a set of tools that if you want to listen to the next 8, 10, 12 shows, you're going to find out where each one of these energy sources comes from and what it can do for you. And I'm just going to ask him to talk just a tick more about it, just so he doesn't give anything away, because we're going to have him as a guest each and every show until we wrap up in June. So, Mike, I know I've given you enough time to breathe there, so, and forgive me, because I get excited and passionate about it, but in 30 seconds or less, give me your elevator pitch about the Energized approach.
Well, the Energized approach, really, 30 seconds, that's a tough one, Matthew, but I'll do my best. That I think I had this conversation with you. I was listening to a sportscaster during one of the football games that's been going on. And at the halftime, he said, or after half, at the end, he said, when these guys came out in the second half, something changed. They looked like they were playing for their coach. It looked like somebody had turned a light on. So, and what I heard, and it just really struck me very deeply, they didn't learn any new skills at halftime, but they tapped into an energy that was not present in the first half. All of us have experienced that, where, if you're behind in a game, that is not when you're attempting to teach a new skill. That's when you're going, how do I get these folks to dig deeper? That is an energy thing. Everybody in our life have experienced situations where we're going, something doesn't feel right. The energy around this is not good. And we feel that we're kind of sometimes at the mercy of that energy. And what the energized approach is about is saying we are not at the mercy of it. We can generate that on our own. And not only can we generate it, but we can then steer it in the direction we want to go. And that's what the energized approach does. It gives you an objective way of looking at what you're doing and saying, can the energy in this process be better than what it is right now?
Wow. I'm glad that elevator went higher than 3 floors. So I'm telling you, sir, I look forward to the next couple weeks with you, diving deeper into this, letting our audience get to know more about it, even beginning to feel a little more of a comfort zone, if you would. Certainly, it's going to be great for me. We've got my co-host, Will Pritchard, over here nodding his head as you're continuing to talk. Obviously, as they've said before, I've got a face for radio, so thank God this is not getting produced live and on color TV. But Will was bouncing his head going, yeah, I understand what he's saying. So hopefully our audience is saying the same thing. We've wet their whistle, and we want to come back to Michael each and every week, get a little bit deeper into the energized approach. And I'll share what I have used with our program here at Towson as well, so that folks can see how we're trying to implement it into the world of athletics. But Michael, will you do us the honor of coming back next week and going a little deeper into it with us?
It would be absolutely my pleasure, Matthew. I really appreciate it.
And maybe we'll get into a couple more personal stories, because I'm sure the audience would really like to hear what all we went through and what hell I put you through. How about that? Would that be fun?
That would be at least fun for us.
I agree. Well, hey, listen, big guy, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to stop by and talk to us. Thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll look forward to seeing or listening to Michael Melnik and the Energized Approach next week. Please come back. Mike, thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. Hey, well, it looks like we've got a new sponsor, and the Jungle Cat would like to thank the fine team at Capital Seaboard, the top distributor of fresh produce and seafood in the Mid-Atlantic region. Capital services the top chefs in restaurants, hotels, caterers, and kitchens from Philly to Richmond. They're a chef-driven, highest in quality company, proudly serving the region with over 90 vehicles delivering 6 days a week. And thanks very much for that sample of lumped crab meat. Can't wait to dive into that after tonight's show. What do you think, Will? You ready to try some?
I'm ready.
Great. Well, thanks again to the people at Capital Seaboard for their fine and continued sponsorship. Hey, Will, our next guest is Derek Hasselhoff, a proud alumnus from Towson University. I first met Derek the very first day that I accepted the job here at Towson University. He was the most kind and outgoing guy that just wanted to develop a great relationship with him. And I think over the past years, we've done that. He's been a great contributor to the program, both on and off the field. I can't thank him enough for coming on tonight and talking a little bit with us. So without further ado, Derek, welcome to the program. Say hi to Will Pritchard. He's my co-host and producer. And we look forward to kind of delving into your career here, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Listen, buddy, you've had a pretty storied career. First, though, let me ask you, why Towson? Why did you choose Towson?
Well, it's kind of a long story, Matt, but I had a couple different offers. I was stuck between basically two positions. I played short and I pitched. So I got a couple different offers, different places across the country. Nothing real big, but, nonetheless, there was about 6 or 7 universities looking at me for various, like I said, various positions. I settled on East Carolina to play shortstop, but there was some financial issues down there, and my mom was going to take a second job to basically allow me to chase my dream down there. I wasn't going to have that. So I, basically after talking with Gottlieb, he wanted me to come and pitch for him. He said I would have an opportunity to make the shortstop position, but ultimately he wanted me on the mound. So, and it turned out, that was the best choice for me, after playing 10 years professionally.
Sure. You're Maryland born and bred, right?
Yes, sir. Pasadena, Maryland.
Pasadena, Maryland. So let's just touch on that career real quick. While you were here at Towson, starter, reliever, tell the folks what you did.
Well, freshman year, of course, you're low man on the totem pole, so a couple relief appearances. But by the end of my freshman year, I ended up becoming a conference starter. After, just focusing down on pitching, I gradually got a little better, velocity got better, and, Gottlieb put me on the mound pretty much every weekend. So, the ERA was a little high, like most of us are, our freshman year. But as the years go by, it gradually came down. And by my senior year, I had a 3.3, I think, when I got drafted to the White Sox.
Tell me your best story here while at Towson.
Oh, my God, Matt, I can't be telling you that. That's stuff, man. My God, you're going to throw that on me right now?
No,
there's plenty of stories, but that's something I got to keep sacred. There's too many guys that are involved, I'm sure. And, I don't want to hang anybody out to dry. We're all married men. Well, some of us are.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought I'd put you on the spot real quick and see what kind of response we got.
It.
No problem. So any records while you were here at Towson?
I think I have a couple. The most prestigious was I think I had the most losses in a career at one point. I think I'm like second or third down the line now, but I'm up there in strikeouts. I think that's about it. Strikeouts, I'm up there, and I have the most losses, 17. We didn't have a very good defense my 4 years at Towson.
Okay. All right. But then you took that Towson career, though, and you jump-started a professional career. Tell us a little bit about that.
Like I said, senior year, got my ERA down to a 3.3, and the White Sox came calling in the 17th round. Went with to them for 6 years, honed my skills, ended up in AAA my second full season. They told me when I got up to AAA, I was in Nashville, that all the reporters came and told me I was the first one out of the 95 draft class to make AAA, which was kind of cool. I didn't know. Playing in the steroid era and everything else, I kind of just sat stagnant in AAA for the next 8 years, basically. Because after the White Sox, I got traded to the San Francisco Giants for Alan Emery, and then I actually ended up signing free agency with Boston for my last year here. And then I went abroad and played in the Mexican big leagues, the Taiwanese big leagues, and then during that stint, I played 4 years of winter ball, 2 in the Dominican and 2 in Venezuela. So I was pretty fortunate.
Yeah, you mentioned you had an 8-year run there, right?
Yeah, AAA. Yeah.
So I think it would be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell the story of the bullpen session and then the injury. A lot of our listeners won't know that story. Would you mind kind of walking us through that?
Like I said, I was on a meteoric rise. From Nashville, the very next year with the White Sox, we moved to Calgary. So we were up in the cold weather, and it was early in the season, and things were clicking for me. I mean, I was doing pretty well. But one particular afternoon, I had a bullpen session out in, I guess, a 30 or 32 degree weather. I just felt something tweak in my elbow. And turns out I had an ulnar collateral damage where, we tried to rehab it back, but it didn't really work. So I ended up going down and having surgery with Dr. Andrews in Birmingham, Alabama, where he put me under the knife, not knowing if I was going to have Tommy John or not. I had to sign a waiver. Luckily enough, he went in and said it wasn't damaged enough to have Tommy John. So he just cleaned it up and sewed me back up and told me basically to take the rest of the year off. But, it's a year recovery. It's something that, elbow injuries are pretty serious. But I ended up coming back and throwing harder. So, ultimately it was a good decision.
We all have those setbacks in our professional or collegiate career, and luckily it wasn't career ending for you, but there was a little bit of a hurdle you probably had to go over. I have heard the story that you were to receive a call up to the big leagues the next day after.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it was the next day, but it was within the next couple days is when my roving pitching instructor Don Cooper, he came out and met me during BP and told me that I was doing a great job and to not tell anybody that I was getting the call within the week. And then it was the very next day is when I had the injury.
Oh man, what a
unfortunate.
What a setback.
Yeah, so it goes.
Hey, so real quick and brief, for a lot of our listeners, number one, they probably never had an opportunity to play Division I baseball and certainly didn't have a chance to play professional baseball, but you had a stint in international baseball. Real quick, what was it like in Mexico and what was it like in Taiwan?
Mexico was a cool place to play. It was a lot of fun. The competition there, I would guess it was equivalent to maybe a high AA. You know, it was good money over there, but ultimately it was a stepping stone for me because I had thoughts and visions of playing in Japan. So from there, I ended up actually getting released. My only release was in Mexico, as I had some arm injuries and there was some politics going on like there is everywhere. But then I ended up going over and playing in Taiwan, which, I have an opportunity to play in Taiwan. An agent called me in the middle of the night. I was actually looking to retire. I had set up my dream vacation of fishing El Salto in Mexico, which I'm a huge bass fisherman, and I had that all set up. And then the agent from Taiwan called, so I figured why not? I've never been the Far East. You know how many other opportunities I'm going to have to do that. So I ultimately flew out of Mexico City to Taipei and played 4 months over there, which was quite interesting.
Well, I'm going to try and get him to tell one story, guys. So hopefully he'll come clean on this one. You once told me that they put you up, your digs were in a high-rise apartment building, and you chose the 4th floor instead of the 24th floor. You want to tell the listeners why?
Man, it's hairy, Matt. I don't know if I want to get into it, but, it's a weird situation over there. When I first signed on with them, there was some grumblings that there was some gambling going on over there, and the agent assured me that it was done and had been done for 4 years. But in my short stint over there, I found out that it really wasn't put to rest. And I don't know, they put me in a situation that if I didn't go along with some things, maybe some bad things would happen to me. And it started adding up, and I ended up leaving in the middle of the night. I had to get out of there. I didn't feel comfortable, and ultimately retired from Taiwan.
Man, you ought to write a book. I'm telling you, that's a good little insert for us. And the Jungle Cat's going to ask a couple tough questions, brother.
That is a tough question. I have a family now, Matt. I'm like, I didn't want to say anything then because the agent really wanted me to help them out, bring that whole situation to its knees. And I told him I wasn't going to do anything until I touched foot on American soil. And to be honest, I've been haven't really talked about it too much up until now. Thanks.
I've had some friends that played over there, and they told me the reason why they stayed on the lower floors was because they stood a better chance of survival. If somebody
that's for 2 reasons: the Chinese mafia and the earthquakes that hit over there.
Yeah, everybody for themselves, for sure.
Yes, sir.
Well,
yes, sir.
I'm only going to hit you with a couple more questions, and I'm going to let you go because I know you're a busy man now. Tell us what you do now.
I'm in medical sales, sell spinal implants to neurosurgeons and orthopedic spine guys.
Fantastic. From Towson University to professional baseball, now to that particular industry.
To the operating room, yes.
Yeah. How about that? I mean, that's got to be something.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, I graduated with a biology degree from Towson that set me up for a nice career. And, I go and speak to a bunch of kids here and there. And, that's one thing I do preach is to get an education because you never know what's going to happen, right? I had my education to fall back on because I didn't make the big leagues, spend all that time in the minors, and so Towson University or Towson State at the time definitely was huge for me.
Well, and that'll be my final question, and you may have answered it, but I'm asking it again anyway. If you could tell the 21-year-old Hasselhoff what one thing would you tell him?
That's tough. But I have a couple things I would tell him, especially in life. You got to believe in yourself. No one really believed in me at the time, and I did. I believed in myself, and it took me around the world. You got to work hard in and outside the classroom. Like I said, there's no guarantees. And also, I would say to surround yourself with people that are better than you at that particular moment in your life. It's like you learn something from everyone, right? So once you do learn that, it's like a building block, right? You only make your life better. On the field, I would say from a pitching perspective, long toss, get your arms strong. If there's scouts in the stands and it's crunch time, light up that radar gun. That's what it did for me. But also be okay with soft contact. That was a problem that I had. I didn't like anyone to touch the ball. I was a strikeout guy. But, maybe that, I burned out too many of my bullets early. I should have been better with, a soft ground ball, but I wasn't. I was a max effort guy. But most importantly is, don't forget to have fun, man. I mean, life's too short. So that's all I preach when I speak to my young men.
Hey, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you were recently inducted to the Arundel County Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What'd that make you feel like?
It's a great accomplishment. I just wish my parents were around to see it because, they were pretty instrumental on getting me to where I got. So it's more for them. It's more for my son, Brody, and a plaque will forever be, hung in the rafters wherever they put it. I think it's Eisenhower Golf Course down in Annapolis, I think is where it's going.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Well, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for sharing your life's history with us. Will you do us a favor?
Yes, sir. Anything.
Let's get into the season a little bit and let you have a bird's eye view of it and maybe come back and talk to us again.
Anytime, Matt. I'm always there for you, man. You know that. And I do want to say one thing. Can I say one thing, Matt?
Yeah, you got the mic, buddy.
Okay. I'm here, and I would ask everybody to support Dan Crowley for the permanent athletic director position. Dan's a good friend of mine, went to college together. He was my quarterback in college. Homegrown talent. We need a guy like him.
Fantastic. And I'm sure Dan appreciates your support. We're all pulling for him. Hopefully he gets the position. Listen, D, have a great day. Thanks again for
Matt.
checking in with us. Look forward to seeing you out there on the sidelines and in the dugout with me this spring.
I will. Go Tigers.
Thanks, brother. Take care. Hey, Will, we picked up another sponsor tonight.
All right, who is it?
Advanced Collision in Beltsville, Maryland. Serving cars, buses, fleets, RV, recreational vehicles, and emergency vehicles. They upfit in the Washington, D.C. and the Baltimore areas. Advanced Collision LLC excels at providing paint, dent repair, and auto body work services for your automobile. They use the best products available today for your automobile, and they only use certified, skilled, highly trained technicians backed by state-of-the-art equipment on your repair. And for a couple months, the Jungle Cat and his family kept those techs in business. They offer custom paint and design, professional body work, and repair services for all types of cars, trucks, buses, and recreational vehicles. So if you have a vehicle that needs repaired, do what the Jungle Cat does. Call 301-595-9377 to schedule an appointment. Advanced Collision, your best bet when it comes to automotive repair.
All right. 3, 2, 1. And we are recording.
My next guest is a former player of mine here at Towson University by the name of Richie Palacios. Drafted in the 3rd round by the Cleveland Indians in 2018. Richie was one of a kind, not only on the field, but off the field. Just a great young man, and I can't say enough good things about him. Super happy to have him on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Richie Palacios. Good evening.
Thanks, Coach T. Thanks, Will. Thanks for having me guys on the show. I love to chat it up with you guys. So I'm ready for this. I'm excited.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your evening with us. It's still late afternoon out in Arizona, which is where Richie is right now doing some training. So we're probably pulling him off the field or out of the hitting facility. Really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate it. I've always got to make time for the real ones, Coach T.
Well, you're one of the youngest guys that we've interviewed right now, and it's kind of nice to have a breath of fresh air. You're going to say all the right things and all the hip things, and maybe I'll be able to identify with a younger crowd after I've spoken with you.
Yeah, you'll be able to relate with the team after this combo.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been fun to follow. I met Richie at a Head First camp a long time ago when I was at the University of Richmond, and then fortunately, I only had to play against him one time as a coach at Towson, and we met each other on the field at a Wake Forest tournament. And gosh, he was just an outstanding young player at that point in time. And then when I took the reins for Towson in 2017, I was just amazed at this young man's talent, and it was fun to watch him. But, you know, the one thing that keeps coming back to me, and I'm going to ask you to speak about this because I want people to understand you had a different level of commitment both in the classroom, on the field, and in the practice facility. And I just want to know where that comes from.
Honestly, for me, growing up, being raised to, you got to work for everything that you want in life. You got to go the extra mile. You can't just do what everyone else does, or else you're going to be just average. And I've learned that through a young age. And when I started to really see it was when I got to college, and I started to really see exactly all the things that I was working on, how it was improving me, and how it was working. And that watching that made me want to work even harder. It's like, okay, look, I came so far from high school to college, and like all the things that I learned, it's like these things are actually working and they're helping, and me just working hard and doing the extra things all paid off. And especially I seen that in my first season before Coach T was actually there, and we just kept that going out through college, and I'm continuing to try and do the same thing now, where it's just about being different, honestly, being different than the average Joe, and hopefully that comes out on the field as well.
You come from a family that has produced some outstanding athletes, baseball in particular. Can you speak to, not only your brother, but your uncle, your father? I mean, share with my listening audience what it must be like to be Palacios.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's also a lot of pressure sometimes from the dad and the uncle, like, hey, like, it's no time, no game plan. So it can be a little pressure at times, but no, I love it. I think the biggest thing for them was when we were younger, they just made the game fun. I know a lot of guys that like had parents that were forcing the game on them and forcing training and forcing everything. The best thing they did for me was they made me enjoy the game first. Just do it for fun until I got to an age where I was actually able to learn and pick things up at the beginning of high school. So for me, that's what sparked my love of the game. And through that, just knowing that you got to work hard through that has made me love it now as much as my family does. So it's definitely been a great experience to be at Palacios. And can't wait for, honestly, the future Palacios is maybe way down the road.
Absolutely. We can't wait either. I mean, that would be nice to get the next generation off and running. So you went to college. Your brother, tell me about his career real quick so that people understand what we're talking about.
So my older brother went to junior college in Texas first. Different route than me. Spent 2 years there and then transferred into Auburn University for his third year. Got drafted after his junior year to the Toronto Blue Jays, and he's been with them ever since. Made his major league debut in 2021. which was awesome. I got to watch that on TV. Couldn't be there because I was in spring training, so it was tough, but it was awesome to watch that on TV at the facility. So he's been a great help to me. He pretty much tells me everything that's going to come before, and I feel like that's helped me and propel my career because I'm already getting ready for things to come. So I'm appreciating him, obviously, and my uncle, my dad, but they're a little bit old school, so you know how that is. So my brother gives me the newest school on it, but yeah, I'm appreciative of all of them, especially Big Bro.
Absolutely. Well, that's good to hear. That's important that our listeners get an understanding of what it's, I mean, what the rank and file is like with you guys. So let me take it back memory lane. You're at Towson University. You're playing baseball. Give me your favorite memory.
Oof, man, that's tough. Honestly, I'm gonna go with my favorite memory. Honestly, it's the things that we did off the field together. One of them being that pool tournament we had. That was a lot of fun. Just being able to get out, spend time with the guys outside the field. So I would say the pool tournaments or those clinics that we ran in Bubba with those kids was hilarious. So I think those are probably some of my greatest memories off the field. On the field, man, that's tough. There's a lot of good. Honestly, I'll just say my first game as a college player. I thought I was going to be nervous, but I actually wasn't. So that was pretty cool. But I would say those were my top memories on and off the field.
Well, obviously, I've got a couple just in the 1 year that I was here. One was at Delaware when you were playing shortstop and the fly ball went up and the third baseman lost it. The third base coach lost it. Catcher lost it. The pitcher lost it. Their dugout was just amazed as you come sliding in front of their dugout and made a nice, beautiful figure four catch on a foul ball. I thought that was just, I was in the midst of greatness, and just unbelievable how you were able to pull that one out of your hat. And then, of course,
yeah, I do remember that one.
that was a special one. Like, I think all the coaches had their hand on each other's shoulders. Like, does he have it? Does he see it? Does he? Oh my God, he made the play. That was just one of those of many. And then obviously from the offensive perspective, Hofstra, the walk-off grand slam. I mean,
I don't.
That's
probably my best memory. You just brought me back. That's definitely my number one.
So, their pitching coach at the time was a former teammate of mine in the Oriole organization. And I was sitting there going, why don't you just walk him? Why don't you just walk him? You're only going to give up one run. You still have a 1-run lead if you just walk him. And I'm sure he was sitting there going, I'm not going to walk a guy with the bases loaded. And I'm like, hey, man, we're getting a little thin after Palacios. This is not the right time to throw to this guy. So curveball after curveball. And I think it was like the fourth curveball maybe or fifth?
Yeah, I think it was 3-2 curveball. He was probably the third or fourth one he threw.
Yeah, and it landed about 390 feet over their bus out on Towson Town Road for a walk-off grand slam. And can you believe it that guy did not come out to home plate to shake hands? I was just a little miffed by that.
Yeah, that was crazy, and everything leading up to that was crazy because we had a bunt single that inning, like a 15-pitch at bat before me, fighting, and I came up. I'm like, all right, I'm just trying to keep this going. Like we rallied just far with 2 outs. I think you started rally with 2 outs.
Yep.
I said, let's just keep this thing going, and didn't expect it to be like that, but that was definitely one of my best memories.
Walk off grand slam. Yeah, so that was a beautiful thing to say the least. So I've had a chance to come and watch you play in pro ball, man. What's it like? Tell me a little bit about your experience in pro ball.
It's been awesome. It's what I prepared for pretty much my whole life. It's pretty awesome to be living in it, living the dream out that I've always had. Every day is just another step. Whether it's practice, game, just another step towards what I want to be in and where I want to be. So it's been awesome. It's been pretty cool not having to worry about tests after a big game. So it's a little bit different in college, but I definitely enjoy it. I love it, and going to do this, and hopefully until I can't anymore.
Well, yeah, that's the objective, and we wish you nothing but luck and success on that. So tell me a little bit about the potential for this year. And from my contacts, they are saying that you've got a legit shot at breaking with a big club if this work stoppage happens to get settled. Would I be safe in saying that? Or, I mean, I know there's work to be done, but is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah. I mean, now being on the 40-man, I'm honestly just a call away. I do have a legit shot. Like everyone on the 40-man pretty much has a shot. But, definitely have a shot to start off in the league. But for me, I just got to control what I can control. I know all the things we learn from you guys is controlling what I can control and allowing the other things to fall in place. And I know you told me that a lot while I was there. I remember specifically just talking about playing in front of scouts. I remember you telling me, like, look, you can't think about all the other what they're looking at or what they want. Just go out and play the game that you love, and control what you control, and let all the other things fall in place. So that's where I feel like I'm at right now.
That is so mature for me to hear from you. I remember point blank, I think I used it with you probably first. If you play the draft will play you. You know.
Yep, I remember that clear.
And that was I'm glad that you listened to that, because look at you now, man, and cannot wait to see you in that Cleveland uniform of the Guardians.
Yes, the Guardians.
I've got a Cleveland hat over here on my bookshelf because we're in our makeshift office studio. So at some point in time, I better see a Guardian hat coming my way.
Oh yeah, I got you. Once I get one myself.
that is fair, my man. That is fair. I had the chance to come down and watch you play in Bowie this past summer. You put on quite the show. I never got a chance to really thank you personally for that, so I'm thanking you right now for that. It was just an unbelievable experience that night to watch you and your boys play.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was a different perspective having you watching me from the outside instead of in the dugout, but it was pretty cool to have you out there. Yeah, that was awesome.
I think single, 2 doubles, and a home run maybe in a 6 at-bat game, or you got 5 hits, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to do something for the home crowd.
Oh man, you did, man, you did. That was really, really something to see. Hey, real quick before I let you go, what are you hearing about the work stoppage? What can you tell my audience?
So right now they're still disputing over the same things. Players are not too happy because they feel like they're not getting what or near what they're asking for. So they're apparently struggling. They're just saying everyone strap in, be ready to hold out if you need to. Obviously still get ready for the season, but don't be surprised if it's delayed quite a bit. So it's been a different, weird experience, kind of like exactly how it was in quarantine, not knowing what day we're going to start. So that's what we're on hold right now. So that's all I know for the most part.
Well, we're seeing some bits and pieces of your preparation, and it looks pretty good to me. So keep that discipline level up and always be ready, obviously, as I know you will be. Personal note, anybody special in your life right now?
No, nobody special in my life right now. Just the game of baseball.
That was such a political answer. You wouldn't tell me if you had someone. So I
would, Coach. I would.
All right. Well, listen, big guy, I'm going to cut you loose. It's been great chatting with you, as always. Continued success. Please say hi to your family for me. I'll make sure that you get all of the links on how to check in and hear this and let them hear it as well. Go Tigers and obviously go Guardians. And we look forward to seeing that Major League uniform. And if there's an opening day, we hope you're in that lineup.
Oh, I hope so too. Thanks so much, Coach Steve, for having me. Always good chatting with you. I love you.
You know I love you too, man. So. All right.
So I appreciate you, and go Tigers. Go Tigers, baby. I want to be following.
Yo, we'll be there, man.
I'm gonna have more time on my hands to watch the games now.
Well, turn us on, man. We open next Friday a week from Friday against Miami. So I'm sure you'll be able to find it on some network.
I will. And obviously, congratulations. Obviously, I'm making the tournament last year. I was watching that. I told you that already, but that's just an exciting thing, and I hope same thing goes this year so I can watch you guys.
You got it, big guy. We'll do our best. We know we got you pulling for us. All right, Tiger?
Always. Thanks, Coach T.
All right, babe. Be good.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Well, Will, that brings to a close our first podcast. What do you think?
I think that went really well.
Well, I couldn't do it without you, and certainly want to give you all the thanks in the world. For me, it's been a lifelong dream to kind of sit on this side of the mic and interview people. And I really want to thank our guests, Michael Melnik of the Energized Approach, Derek Hasselhoff, and Richie Palacios, for spending some time with us, and kind of opening up. I did ask a couple tough questions. Hope they're not too dejected with me. I also want to thank our sponsors, Chris Russ, a Towson alum who is the real estate specialist in this area, Capital Seafood, and Advanced Collision for their part that they play in helping us produce this podcast. Stay tuned with us. Throughout the course of the season, I'm going to rehash what happened the week previous and go into future details, what the week is going to look like coming up. Really happy that you're here with us. Want to see you again. I'm going to leave you with one thought, and it's pretty simple. If you want to see something change, then be the change that you want to see in the world today. You can do it. We all have our part to play. Just take it upon yourself to play that part. Thanks very much. Enjoyed having you. We'll see you next week.
Do you have any questions you wish for us to discuss? Anything you want to talk about? Feel free to email us at mtyner@towson.edu. That's mtyner@towson.edu or wprich1@students.towson.edu. That's wprich1@students.towson.edu.